Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Tuesday. I hope the day is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. And what a day it is. You might see new surroundings for me at the moment. I'm away at the moment, but I definitely wanted to pop on this morning of all mornings and do a quick video, slightly shorter, I'd imagine, than the usual ones now, but felt like I had to come on and talk about this game. What a game it is at the Emirates a little bit later. As you can tell, I'm not going to be there, which is frustrating. I have spoken about that. But all of you who are going, enjoy it, soak it up, absorb it all. It is very, very special indeed. This is what we've been waiting for how long to get back in the Champions League, to play a game like this. It's what we all dream of and have wanted for a long, long time. It's going to be tough. Real Madrid are definitely the favourites, but Arsenal still got an opportunity here to write themselves into the history books, write their own story, I think, as Bukyao Saka and Mikel Arteta were both talking about in their press conference yesterday. So we're going to talk about that game in today's show, go through the predicted 11, some key decisions for Mikel Arteta, but I think we probably know, give or take, what his selection is going to be. So we'll do the Arsenal 11, what we think it's going to be. Look at what Bukyao Saka's been saying ahead of the game about his contract, look at what has been saying, and plenty more to get stuck into, because it is just a huge, huge night. You see the pictures from training. You can imagine the intensity at London Colney this week. You know, from the second the full-time whistle went at Goodison Park at the weekend, all eyes would have been on this game. It would have been absolutely buzzing at the training ground, trying to get everyone ready and prepared for tonight, because it's crucial. You know, Arsenal need something to take with them to Madrid for the second leg. You think if Madrid get a win tonight, it's going to be almost impossible for Arsenal at the Bernabeu. Not impossible. Stranger things will happen, but almost impossible. They need to have something to take with them tonight. So big performance, need to be clinical, no doubt about that. You go back to the Bayern Munich game this time last season, the 2-2, when Arsenal had them, they were on the ropes, didn't take advantage. Bayern came back in the end, Arsenal only had a draw to take with them to Munich for the second leg, and that didn't prove to be enough. Can't afford for that to happen tonight. When you get chances, when you get in the box and you get yourselves in a good position, you've got to be clinical and take those chances. So that's what Mikel Arteta, no doubt, is going to be drilling into his players in the build-up to this game. Sort of team news wise, Mikel said when he was asked if everyone's available following the weekend, he said, looks like it. We have another training session in the afternoon. Ben finished the game at the weekend. We had to stop him over time because he hasn't played much football, but he was fine after the game. And with the rest, they went through the game and they were able to do some bits yesterday and ready to train today. On if he's decided how he's going to replace Gabriel at left centre-back, he just said, yes, we've decided. Saka is fit enough to start. He said he's in a much better place. Gradually, we've built his minutes in the last 6 or 7 days. He's coped well with that, really, and he's in a good place to be able to be used. Look, Bukayo Saka's going to start. I'll be stunned, absolutely stunned if Bukayo Saka doesn't start. The whole reason he came on at half-time against Everton was to get 45, 50 minutes into his legs ahead of a possible 60, 65 tonight. You don't do what you did at the weekend against Everton if Bukayo Saka's not going to start tonight, providing there's been no setback, which it certainly doesn't look like he has. There has been, he's training fine yesterday. He was in the press conference, looking more than happy. So, Bukayo Saka's going to start. I'd be very, very surprised if he doesn't. And obviously the left centre-back is then really the only option, or the only tough decision Mikel's got to take. But I would imagine in his head, he's known for a while who it's going to be. So we'll get to that when we look at predicted 11. But that's what Mikel's been saying sort of about team news and about the game as a whole, how big it is and whether this is the sort of game you get into coaching and football for. He said, that's why I came into football. That's why I came into management, especially at this football club. It's been 20 years since we've had this type of game. And for us, it's a great opportunity to build on our story. And this is what we're here for. Again, kind of telling the players there, look, all we've heard about in the build up to this game is 2006 and Arsenal versus Real Madrid and Henry and everyone like that. This is your time to write your own story, become a hero at this football club. We talked about for the next 20 years at this football club. That's the opportunity that Arsenal have ahead of them today. Someone can make themselves a hero. On if it's the biggest night in his management career, he said 100%. It's a joy to prepare for the game, to look at them, just look at the reaction of the people and how we feel about ourselves coming into a game of this magnitude, the excitement around the club, the people. This is the stage we want to be, and this is where Arsenal has to be consistently. We are very proud to be there. Now we're ready tomorrow to deliver. On whether Arsenal are in a better place than they were this time last season against Bayern Munich, he said, I think we are. building those experiences is something necessary. That's why I said we have to build our own story. There's a massive gap there of so many years when nothing has happened in this football club in relation to European competitions. We need to change that, and we need to change that quickly. On if Arsenal didn't express themselves properly in the game against Bayern last season, Mikel said, especially moments in the second leg, because there were moments in the first leg, especially in the first half, where we absolutely had them. We have to utilise those moments and be ruthless. Have to put the game to bed, and we didn't. And on top of that, we gave them 2 goals and made life much more difficult for us in the return leg in Munich. I do think that game in Bayern will be interesting in terms of what Arsenal learned and the lessons that players learned. You know, they can fall back on that experience. It was massively disappointing. You know, I still feel that Arsenal should probably have gone through in that tie. There were mistakes made in both legs. Second performance in Munich was just a little bit disappointing. It was like they didn't really believe in themselves. And I would hope they play and act very, very differently this time around. But it was that first leg, as Mikel, not being ruthless enough, giving Bayern a chance to come back with 2 quick goals when Arsenal were a team on top. Some big mistakes made in that game. Hopefully they can learn from them tonight. Right, just on Bukyao Saka, this is what he had to say. Tom Canton, who I would praise for a good question, but has been directing his subscribers to come onto my page and leave comments taking the mickey out about the fact that I am missing Madrid, which has been duly noted, Mr. Canton, as you're aware. But I will praise you. It was a good question on Bukayo Saka and asking whether he can help ease the nerves of Arsenal fans about his contract. And he said, for me, I want to win, and I want to win wearing this badge. I think it is pretty clear. The fans know how much that I love them. And you saw that when I came on against Fulham. Think they love me back, so it's a good relationship. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm just focused on winning. He then said, I don't think anyone is really in a rush. I have 2 years left on my contract, so it's pretty relaxed. Everyone knows my thoughts, and I've let you guys know as well. So I don't think there's any rush, really, which, again, very similar to what William Saliba said. For them, maybe not so much of a rush, but for the fans, I think ideally they would like this sorted sooner rather than later. I still feel far more confident about Arsenal securing Bukayo Saka to a new long-term contract at some point than maybe William Saliba, because of that, just a huge emotional tie that Bukayo Saka has with Arsenal. He is Arsenal. He is the poster boy of this new generation at Arsenal. If anyone who was at the game on Tuesday night against Fulham, who heard the reception, who felt the love around that stadium when he came back after 3 months out, it was undeniable. He is the guy at this football club, the face of Arsenal right now. And hopefully that will mean that this will be a relatively smooth process, even if it does go on a little while, like last time it did. It went on to the final year before he signed that new contract. But I'm still fairly confident that Bukayo Saka will sign the deal. You've got to see, when he says, I want to win, you've got to show that he can win here. And so far, he hasn't really, apart from that FA Cup a fair while ago when he wasn't even on the pitch that day. So now he needs to be shown that he can win, and fingers crossed Arsenal can get themselves over the line. Maybe this year in the Champions League, who knows? But I still feel fairly confident that Bukayo Saka will at some point sign his new contract. Right. Actually, before we get on to Thibaut Courtois, let me just pull up the. I haven't. See, this is because I'm on holiday. I'm not switched on enough. I haven't pulled up my my predicted 11 graphic, so I'm going to have to do it without the graphic on the screen, which I will do because I know what it is. So predicted 11 tonight. Remember, this isn't necessarily the team that I would go for. This is a team that I think Mikel Arteta is going to go for later. So David Raya in goal. Obviously, it'll be David Raya. I then think it's going to be Jurgen Timber at right, William Saliba at right centre back. I think Kiwior starts. I know there's been the argument for Ben White. If Ben White was 100% fit, I'd be playing Ben White. But I think Kiwior starts because I just don't think Ben White's 100% fit. And I think that would be a slight concern. And then it would mean moving people around as well. So, no, I'm going Kiwior. That means it's right back. It means you've got the Saliba and Timber sort of connection on that right-hand side. And they've both become very used to playing in that role. So that's what I would go for. Timber, Saliba, Kiwior, and Lewis Skelly at left back. Partey as a holding midfielder. Odegaard and Rice obviously as the eights. And then I'm going Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left, and Marino up top. I know some people have been like, well, should we play Trossard and have 3 forwards up there? I think he's going to play Merino. I'd be very surprised. I know he dropped back into midfield against Everton, but I think that was more of a one-off thing. So I think Merino starts as the central striker. So my 11 for tonight: Raya, Timber, Saliba, Kivior, Lewis Skelly, Partey, Odegaard, Rice, Saka, Merino, and Gabriel Martinelli. Okay, before we wrap this one up, a few quotes from the Real Madrid camp ahead of the tie. Thibaut Courtois was in a big injury doubt, but he did travel. He is with the squad. And this is what he had to say ahead of the game. He said, "I am fully fit. If I'm going to start or not, you have to ask the manager, but I am fit and I feel good. It was not a big issue, so I could train in the gym and do my routines. I've been on the pitch for the last day, so I feel fine, 100%. And hopefully I'm ready to help the team. I had a couple of injuries at the start of the season, but I think maybe I came back too early. I have been training well. I'm in good shape. This was just a niggle, and we don't want to take any risks. So we decided I would rest at the weekend and not play on Saturday." Courtois also went on about how he respects Arsenal and Real Madrid respect Arsenal as well. So, yeah, Courtois fit to start, which is fortunate for Real Madrid, really. Well, fortunate. They've obviously managed it to be in this position, but there's no Lunin, so they'd have been really struggling had Courtois not made it. Ancelotti has also been talking. It was him and Courtois in the press conference at the stadium yesterday before the training session that they had on the pitch. And this is what he had to say about Arsenal. He says, "There aren't many complete teams in Europe. A lot of teams do many things well, but not many are as complete as Arsenal. They press high, defend deep well, transition well. Facing a team like this, we have to be tactically prepared and execute our plan with clarity." Speaking about Martin Odegaard, when he was at Real Madrid, where Ancelotti obviously was at the time, and why it didn't quite work out for Odegaard, Ancelotti said when he arrived, like I said, he was very young. He didn't have space in the first team. At the time, we had Cristiano, Benzema, James Rodriguez in front of him, and he couldn't find the opportunity to show his quality. He decided to go away, get more playing time. Honestly, I think he did the right thing. Now he's at one of the most important clubs in Europe. Massive day for Martin Odegaard tonight, obviously, against his former club. It's been a struggle for him so far this season. He's not really hit the heights that we were all expecting in the last couple of years. It's been a season with injuries and lots of disruption for Odegaard. He's not been at his best. He admits that himself. What a moment this would be against his former club on the biggest stage of all, if he could really find his form and enjoy a really special night. And fingers crossed, the captain or anyone, I don't care who it is, can do that. Right, just before I go now, I just wanted to bring this up. It's just one comment I'm just going to bring up because I thought it was a really good way to end the show. It's from Sam. He said, "Hi, Charles. I just want to say how excited I am for this game. Being a supporter since about 2010, I've missed a lot of big moments in our recent history. So to see us play Madrid in the knockout quarterfinals of the Champions League is definitely the biggest game I've seen us play in my memory. While the squad may not be at its strongest, I'm so excited to see what we can do to dare to dream against arguably the biggest club in the world." Just thought that was a really good comment. So excited for this game, as I'm sure everyone is. So if you're going tonight, enjoy it, be loud, back the boys, make as possibly can, create one hell of an atmosphere. Fingers crossed we can all have a day or a night that everyone remembers for a long time. Speak to you soon, everyone. Bye-bye.